how do you think about restraint and like being able to do more with less and when you make music?
Hmm. I guess in the moment, I'm not necessarily thinking so much about, pulling back or like having to overextend myself. It's literally just whatever kind of comes to mind. I've always said that I approach music as a sketchbook where it's like I can go in one day, open Ableton, and kind of make the basic framework around something and then like kind of come back to it later and develop it from there, add in color, add in shading, add in all of these things. I don't really feel called to like do more or or do less in one session. Like,
Mm,
I'll just like add to it, add to it, add to it. And if I feel like it's completed, then it's completed.
right
So
on. Can you speak more on that Ableton as a sketchbook kind of mentality?
yeah, so I know with like a lot of producers out here, a lot of them feel like they have to make the entire beat what it's going to be in one session. And I even fell into that line of thinking because of like extracurricular things in my life, be it work, hanging out with friends, hanging out with loved ones of all types. And I just felt like time was finite, so I had to get the idea out right then and there. And then when the pandemic happened, it was sort of like, okay, I don't have to get everything right in the moment. And I feel like that's also just an easy way, an easy path to burnout when when you're like in a session, you're just adding, subtracting, and then adding again. You open it up to like second guess yourself. And that's why like I took the whole like sketchbook approach just because just to avoid that burnout and to realize like, look, it doesn't have to be all it's gonna be right here in the moment. Like you need to marinate on certain things, certain aspects of the beat, go out, live life, and then come back with a fresh set of ears.
Yeah, it really sounds like taking just a really more long term approach and letting something kind of grow a little bit over
Yeah.
time more naturally. So I'm wondering how did you come to see that or discover that as a more like sustainable and like productive way to continue?
I arrived at that when I was working on a project that I had that I released in 2020 called Ascendant. I was really going crazy, especially since I didn't have work and everything. Like, again, it was the pandemic, so I was staying up till crazy hours, like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, just like working on one particular thing
Mm.
or a series of things. So it would
Hmm.
be like either one, excuse me, beat in a night. It would be upwards of like three or four. I just felt like I had to keep creating, especially since none of us knew what was going to happen or when during this like crazy pandemic with this crazy virus that no one knows anything about. So I initially felt like, okay, my time is super finite now. So let me just like keep cranking things out. And then I was just like, you know what? Let me step away for a second. I wasn't doing the right things by, my for my mental and for my body, by staying up that late and, just like staring at a computer like, make this beat or make these beats. Yeah, I just decided to, kind of step back and just anytime I was called to do it, I would like, go back in and add things and ultimately it became Ascendant.
So it's interesting. What I'm hearing too is, in this case, it was like the example of the pandemic, but sort of this
Hmm.
sense of like urgency around time. So I'm kind of curious now about what stresses you out, or where does pressure come from?
These days I don't allow pressure in.
Mm.
Or at least like I try not to. As far as like, time and pressure in those days, it was just I really felt like, my mortality was at risk along with like, the rest of the world. A lot
Not
of
at all.
that like came from fear, I would
Mm.
say. It just came from like an overarching fear. Even beforehand, I would say it came from a fear of like, okay, the phrase always gets tossed around like hip hop is a young man's game.
Mm,
So I really thought that, like, because I was aging, I turned 30 during the pandemic. I thought like my time here, like, in my window of being a producer is shortening and shortening and shortening day by day. Every time I opened Ableton after work or something, I always thought it had to be like the best shit ever, or, I might as well just like give up now kind of thing.
mm.
It's all the like intrusive thoughts that you tell yourself, whether it be to get your ass up and like do something, or whether it's just to like, really try to crank out like the best work. It's like those intrusive thoughts like really kind of fuck me up a little bit.
In my experience, and from the experience of many other people that have been on this show, those thoughts don't seem to go away.
Mm.
So I guess I'm curious, what have you done or what have you experienced that's helped you deal with them in a way that helps you move forward?
Every single day you wake up, it's a different you. And like I have this phrase, and I think I told you about it once, where it's like, I just remind myself that there is a yesterday, there's a today, and there's going to be a tomorrow. So you might not, and basically meaning that like, look, you were on fire yesterday, or maybe you weren't on fire yesterday, but you're on fire today. Who knows what can happen tomorrow? Part of the fun of making music is like just like stretching your imagination and really digging into that imagination bag and being like, okay, what can I come up with? And I realized that I couldn't come up with anything if I was being harsh on myself. So I just, instead of, saying, oh, you need to do XYZ, otherwise XYZ, instead of like giving myself this phony list of consequences that only lives in my brain, I just tell myself, look, you didn't get it today, but there's a yesterday, today was today, tomorrow's tomorrow.